Most people believe fear comes from what we can see. Monsters, shadows, screams in the dark. But real fear doesn't announce itself. It waits, it watches, and it slips into your mind quietly, until one day you realize it has always been there. Tonight's story is not about something chasing you. It's about something that already knows you, your habits, your routines, the exact moment you feel safest. There is a reason your house sounds different at night. Why familiar walls seem closer, why silence feels heavier after midnight. Your brain tries to convince you it's imagination, but instinct knows better. Something has changed. At first, it's small, a sound you can't explain, a feeling that you're being observed, but only when you're alone. You ignore it because fear only becomes real when you acknowledge it. Then comes the pattern, the same noise, the same hour.
There's a moment every night when your mind drifts before sleep. That space between awareness and dreams. That's where it waits. You've felt it before. The sudden urge to open your eyes. The quiet panic with no cause. The instinct that something is standing too close. It studies you. Learns how long you stare at your phone. Learns when you stop believing you're alone. Fear isn't loud anymore. It doesn't slam doors or whisper names. Some nights you'll wake up convinced time has passed, but your clock hasn't moved. Only the air feels heavier, like it's holding a breath. That's because it doesn't need to touch you. It feeds on anticipation. On the moment your thoughts slow and your defenses drop, you might tell yourself this is just a story, that this feeling will fade once the video ends. But ask yourself this: why did your body tense up before your mind did?
There is a specific second every night when safety expires, the moment when your thoughts stop making sense. That's when it notices you. It doesn't rush, it doesn't need to. You live in a predictable loop, same rooms, same habits, same false sense of control. It learned you by watching you forget about it. You may think fear comes from sudden danger, but true horror arrives quietly when nothing seems wrong, when your surroundings are familiar enough to betray you. The walls aren't closing in, they're listening. Every unexplained noise you dismissed, that wasn't randomness, that was confirmation. It waits for the moment you stop questioning reality, the moment your brain chooses comfort over survival. That's why it never reveals itself fully. Certainty would end the game. Instead, it lets you feel watched. If you're feeling uneasy right now, that's not coincidence. They awaken it. It becomes part of it. No one ever tells you when the last normal moment happens. Just a quiet shift you only recognize after it's gone. That's how it measures readiness. Every time you dismiss a strange feeling, you make room for it. Not physically, mentally. You don't see it because it doesn't exist where light helps. It exists in hesitation, in second guesses, in the silence after you realize you're not imagining things anymore. People think horror is about being hunted. It's not. It's about being understood. It knows which thoughts you avoid, which memories unsettle you, which moments make you feel small, and it uses those not to scare you, but to make you familiar with its presence. That's why the fear feels different now, quieter, personal. So if something feels off after this video ends, trust that feeling. Not because something is about to happen, but because something already has.
The human mind is designed to notice threats. That's why this feeling is dangerous, because it doesn't feel like fear at first. It feels like curiosity. Something subtle pulls at your attention. A thought that isn't yours. A pause that lasts a second too long. That's how it introduces itself. It doesn't need to scare you immediately. It needs access. And access comes from familiarity. You begin to sense it during ordinary moments, while brushing your teeth, while staring at nothing, while waiting for a sound that never comes. It watches how you react. Not to danger, but to uncertainty. Because uncertainty weakens boundaries. You tell yourself nothing is wrong. You continue your routine. And it learns that it can stay. Not in your house, in your head. That's why the silence feels crowded now.
You don't remember the first time it noticed you. That's intentional. Awareness is dangerous for you, not for it. So it lets your memory blur the beginning. At first, nothing feels wrong. Life continues. Days pass. It doesn't speak in words. It communicates through interruption. Interrupted sleep. The sensation that something just passed behind you. Humans always do. And that adaptation is the invitation. It accumulates, layer by layer, until discomfort becomes normal. That's when it stops hiding. But because you've stopped questioning its presence, you tell yourself this is anxiety, stress, anything except the truth. because the truth requires action, and action is what it cannot allow. Close, persistent. If you're feeling unsettled right now, that's not coincidence. Recognition always feels like unease before it feels like certainty. So when this video ends, don't rush back to noise. Notice how silence doesn't feel empty anymore.
There's a part of your mind that never sleeps. It notices patterns you don't. It notices the seconds you glance away, the moments you think you're alone. And it remembers. It doesn't arrive with screams or shadows. It arrives in the quiet when you're brushing your teeth, scrolling your phone, or staring at nothing at all. A small presence, just out of reach. But it's there. You think you can ignore it. You tell yourself it's imagination, that your mind is playing tricks. But imagination doesn't study you. It doesn't wait for the exact moment your defenses drop. It doesn't learn. You'll notice subtle changes first. The hum of the fridge feels too loud. The hallway looks narrower. A reflection in the mirror is just slightly wrong. You shrug it off. You always shrug it off. And that's when it smiles. Not literally, not yet, but the satisfaction is there. There's a sound you will never recognize until it's too late. It isn't a door creaking, it isn't a floorboard groaning, and it waits there just beyond perception. It doesn't move toward you, it moves within you. It remembers every time you ignored that nagging sense that something wasn't right. A draft, your imagination, stress, but dismissing is exactly what it wants, because doubt is the gateway. And once doubt enters, it doesn't need to knock again. You may start noticing small things, a whisper that seems to echo your thoughts. Objects slightly moved, even though you were certain they hadn't. You will rationalize it, you always do, and predictability is a feast. Fear isn't loud, it isn't sudden. Fear is knowing, and knowing is understanding, because that is where it waits.
Not all fear announces itself. Some of it slides in quietly between thoughts, between moments, when you are least aware. It does not knock. It does not demand attention. It simply exists, just behind the corner of your mind you've been ignoring. You'll notice it in the smallest ways at first. A sound that doesn't belong. A shadow that lingers a second too long. A feeling, subtle but sharp, that someone or something is watching. Even when the room is empty, you will shrug it off. You always do. But it is learning you. Every second you convince yourself it's nothing. It collects them and it waits. It doesn't need to make itself seen, because the mind itself will betray you. Your imagination will betray you. Your memories will betray you. And when you finally realize it is not gone, not a trick, not a coincidence, you can never unsee it.
There is a sound you will never forget, even if you never hear it. Not a scream, not a knock, not a whisper. It is the absence of everything you expect, a pause in reality, a space where certainty dies. It doesn't move towards you, it moves inside you. Inside your thoughts, your memories, your habits. It knows what you fear most, and it waits for the exact moment you forget to protect yourself. At first, you will ignore it. You will convince yourself it's stress, imagination, coincidence, and that is exactly what it wants. Because fear that is ignored becomes intimate. Fear that is intimate becomes permanent. You'll notice little things, too late to stop them. The shadows in familiar corners are sharper. Reflections in mirrors are just slightly wrong. The air feels heavier, but only when you stop moving. You will tell yourself it's nothing. You always tell yourself it's nothing, but it is always there.
There is a quiet that isn't silence. It isn't emptiness. It's something worse. A space between sounds where you can feel it breathing, even when no one is there. You will not see it, you will not hear it, but you will know. It knows your routines, your moments of weakness, the exact second you feel safe, and it waits. Not to scare you, not to hurt you. It waits to make you aware that nothing around you is truly yours anymore. You will notice little things first. A shadow that lingers too long, a reflection that hesitates before it mirrors you. You must. It doesn't need to show itself. It thrives in doubt, in hesitation, in the moment when your mind tells you everything is fine, and your instincts scream otherwise. And when you finally accept it, you will realize it has always been inside you.
There is a moment tonight when you will realize your room has changed, not in ways you can see, but in ways you can feel. The air will feel heavier. The shadows will seem to move slightly before you do. It is not outside. It is not behind the door. It is inside the space you thought was yours. It has been here longer than you know, watching you, learning your habits, counting the seconds between your thoughts. It doesn't need to attack. It only needs you to notice. And now that you have, it will not let go. A reflection that hesitates. A sound that isn't there. You will rationalize, you will doubt. That is the point. Fear is not loud, fear is intimate. That every space you thought was private is shared. That everything you ignored, the small disturbances, the whispers of doubt, was its invitation.
There is a presence you will never see. Not because it hides, but because it does not exist where light can reach. It exists in hesitation, in the spaces you ignore, in the small pauses between your thoughts. And it has always been there. At first, you will sense it as a shadow in your peripheral vision, a whisper you cannot remember hearing, a floorboard that creaks when no one walks. You will convince yourself it's imagination. You must. That is the invitation. It does not need to touch you. It does not need to speak. It waits in the quiet, learning how long it takes for your mind to forget it is there. It watches you grow accustomed to normality, because once normality returns, fear becomes intimate, personal, permanent. Your room feels smaller, heavier, as though it is pressing down on you. And that is how it survives. Within doubt, within hesitation, within your mind.
You will not hear it coming. There is no knock, no whisper, no warning. It waits in the spaces you consider safe. The corner of the room, the shadow under the bed, the pause between your thoughts. It doesn't need to. It knows when you are distracted, when you are tired, when your mind allows itself to soften. And it remembers every one of those moments. A reflection that lingers too long, a sound that doesn't belong. It feeds not on fear, but on certainty. On the moment you realize, too late, that it has been here all along, that even your imagination cannot escape it. And now that you know it is there, you can never be alone again. It will linger in the pauses between your thoughts, in the quiet moments before sleep, in every shadow you ignore, not to scare you, not to hurt you, just to exist, inside you and inside your awareness, forever.
There is a moment tonight when everything will feel slightly wrong. Not loud, not obvious, just off, like a word misremembered, like a shadow hesitating. It doesn't appear. It doesn't need to. It exists in the spaces you ignore, in the moments you think you are safe. It has been watching you for longer than you know, learning your habits, your routines, the exact time your mind allows itself to rest. It doesn't knock. It doesn't whisper. It waits patiently, knowing that patience makes fear permanent. The first signs are subtle, a reflection that moves too slowly, a sound that disappears when you turn your head, objects slightly shifted, but only when your back is turned. You will rationalize it. You must. Doubt is how it survives, and when you finally notice, you will understand the truth. It has always been inside you, in your thoughts, in your fears, in every pause you thought was empty.
There is a moment tonight when everything will feel slightly wrong. Not loud, not obvious, just off, like a word misremembered, like a shadow hesitating. It doesn't appear. It doesn't need to. It exists in the spaces you ignore, in the moments you think you are safe. It has been watching you for longer than you know, learning your habits, your routines, the exact time your mind allows itself to rest. It doesn't knock, it doesn't whisper. It waits patiently, knowing that patience makes fear permanent. The first signs are subtle, a reflection that moves too slowly, a sound that disappears when you turn your head, objects slightly shifted, but only when your back is turned. You will rationalize it. You must. It doesn't leave. It simply waits. Now that you are aware, you will never be alone again. Every shadow, every silence, every hesitation is its home, and its home is now yours too.
There is a quiet tonight that isn't silence. It is something heavier, something that presses against your mind the moment you stop paying attention. It doesn't move. It doesn't need to. It waits in the pauses between your thoughts, in the shadows that never quite match the light. It knows you, better than you know yourself. It knows the moments you are distracted, the moments you let your guard down, the moments you tell yourself you are alone, and it waits for them. At first, you will notice tiny things, a reflection that hesitates, a sound that vanishes when you turn your head, a sense that something is closer than it should be. Fear is understanding that your space, your mind, your life are no longer just yours. It will never leave. Not to scare you, not to attack you, just to remind you that you are never, ever alone.
There is a moment tonight when the world will feel different. Not broken, not strange, just thinner. Like the walls are listening, like the air itself remembers you. You will not see it, you will not hear it, but you will feel it. It waits in the small spaces you ignore, the corner of the room, the pause between your thoughts, the moments you tell yourself everything is normal. It knows you better than you know yourself, a shadow that hesitates before it disappears. You must. Doubt is its home. It feeds on your certainty. On the moment you realize, too late, that it has been here all along, that it has been inside your thoughts, inside your fears, inside your mind, that it doesn't need to attack, because once you notice it, you belong to it. It will never leave. Every silence, every shadow, every pause you thought was empty is its space.